Imagine it is Friday night and you want to watch the latest movie everyone is talking about. You do not pick up a remote and scroll through a colorful menu. You grab your car keys, check your wallet for a plastic membership card, and drive 2 miles to a brightly lit store filled with thousands of plastic boxes. This was our reality just 15 years ago. But if streaming platforms had never been invented, this would be our permanent future. Today, we take for granted that every song, movie, and show ever made is shoved into a glass slab in our pockets. But without Netflix or Spotify, the world would be an unrecognizable place for both creators and fans. Let us dive into the alternate timeline where the play button was never digitized. First, consider the absolute death of binge-watching. The very concept of a binge depends on instant access.
In a world without streaming,
The cliffhanger would be a weapon of torture rather than a minor inconvenience. You would be back to the mercy of network schedules. If you missed an episode of your favorite show on a Tuesday at 8 p.m., it was simply gone. Maybe you could catch a rerun in 6 months, or you had to pray your DVR actually recorded it. This friction meant shows had to be episodic. You could not have complex, 100-hour slow burn narratives like Stranger Things or The Bear, because if a viewer missed week 3, they would be lost for the rest of the season. Television would remain safe, repetitive, and formulaic to ensure anyone could tune in at any time. This leads us to the second major change, which is the physical clutter of our lives. Without streaming, your living room would be a graveyard of plastic. We would still be buying DVDs and Blu-rays for $20 a pop, just to own a single film. Your shelves would be overflowing with discs that eventually scratch and skip. The same goes for music. Your car would still be filled with those bulky CD visors. And the idea of having millions of songs for a flat $10 fee would sound like a pipe dream. We would be spending significantly more money for significantly less content. You would have to be very selective about what you consumed because every choice had a literal price tag. There would be no such thing as checking out a random indie film on a whim if it cost $15 to rent the physical copy. The third, and perhaps most devastating impact, would be on the independent creator, streaming. For all its flaws regarding royalties, democratized distribution. Without it, the gatekeepers would have absolute power. To get a movie seen, you would need a massive studio to pay for the manufacturing and shipping of thousands of physical tapes to stores. To get a song heard, you would need a radio station to put it in their rotation. There would be no viral hits from a bedroom producer in Ohio or a niche documentary filmmaker in Korea. The cultural conversation would be much narrower because we would only be watching what a few executives in New York and Los Angeles decided to put on the shelves. We would also be living in a world defined by the return of the video store as a community hub. While there is a certain nostalgia for the smell of popcorn and the blue carpet of a blockbuster, we forget the frustration of the late fee. In a non-streaming world, the late fee would be a multi-billion-dollar industry. You would constantly be racing against a clock to return a piece of plastic to a store to avoid being charged more than the movie was worth. Finally, the way we interact socially would be completely different. There would be no global simultaneous releases. We would go back to a time where a movie came out in America, and the rest of the world had to wait months for the physical shipments to arrive. The internet would be a minefield of spoilers for every international fan, and the concept of a global trending topic about a new release would be impossible. Our culture would be fragmented, slow, and expensive. We often complain about the rising prices of our monthly subscriptions or the overwhelming amount of choice. But when you look at the alternative, it is clear that streaming changed more than just how we watch TV. It changed how we experience the world. It turned luxury into a utility. If you enjoyed this trip into a parallel universe, Make sure to hit that like button so the algorithm knows you are a human and not a bot. Subscribe for more deep dives into the what-ifs of technology and culture. And let me know in the comments which physical media you actually miss the most. See you in the next one.